In our first story, we talked about when scientists believe different types of life developed on the Earth based on the fossil and rock layers. But why have so many different forms of life developed on Earth? People have wondered about this for a long time. Then, about 150 years ago, an Englishman named Charles Darwin proposed a theory to explain how and why new forms of life develop. His explanation, called the theory of evolution, is one of the greatest accomplishments of science. Charles Darwin left England in 1831 on a ship named the Beagle to sail around the world on a scientific expedition. One of the places he visited on his voyage was an isolated group of islands in the Pacific Ocean, 600 miles from the South American shore, called the Galapagos Islands. There, among other unique forms of life, he found an unusual group of finches. He believed that all the finches were descendant of the same type of finches, but he noticed that on each island the birds' beaks were shaped differently. The finches on each island ate different kinds of food, and Darwin believed that small changes in the birds over many generations had resulted in many different species, each with a beak adapted to the particular diet. The Galapagos finches helped Darwin understand the role played by the environment in evolution. Here's how it works. Many plants and animals produce many more offspring than can survive. For example, a mother frog lays 3,000 eggs. Most of the eggs are eaten by birds and fish, but 200 become tadpoles. Here's a picture of 200 tadpoles. And 10 of those tadpoles grow up to become frogs. One frog dies after moving to a pond that dries up. One is eaten by a fish. 2 are eaten by snakes. One frog is a great jumper. He escapes from predators and survives. One is caught by a fox. One can't find enough insects to eat and starves. One has good eyesight, is able to avoid predators and to spot insects to eat and survives. One is eaten by a toad, and one is eaten by a bird. Of the 10 frogs, only 2 survive. One is a good jumper, and the other has sharp eyesight. These frogs will probably become parents and pass on these qualities to their offspring. Darwin called this process natural selection, or survival of the fittest. The weaker tend to die, while the fittest survive. Now, Darwin didn't know how parents pass traits on to their offspring, but we do. Each child gets half of its genes from each parent. This half is split differently for each child, so there are natural differences called variations. Think about brothers and sisters. Although they have the same parents, they don't all look exactly the same. There are all sorts of differences. Some will be taller, some will be shorter, some will be darker, some will be lighter, some faster, some slower. Some of these variations may help the organism survive, as we saw with the frogs. Now, we also know about something called mutations. Sometimes during the dividing of the genes, the copy goes wrong, and a completely new feature, called a mutation, appears in the next generation. Most mutations are harmful. Like this albino fish, will probably be easy to spot by predators and get eaten fast. Meanwhile, this spotted fish is harder to see and will probably survive to pass on its spots to some of its children. Mutations are the way brand new traits can appear. In the very, very long time scale of evolution, the Earth is constantly changing. Mountains and rivers form and disappear, oceans rise up or dry up, and forests and deserts come and go. After many, many, many generations, variations and mutations can make a species larger or more colorful or different in some other way. Each difference is tested by natural selection, Either the change makes a plant or animal better able to survive and pass on new features to its offspring, or it makes survival less likely. After millions and millions of years, the accumulated small differences between one generation and the next have become big differences. And this is how evolution works.